There's always value deep in the draft. We'll tell you why Deshane Montgomery is one of the biggest sleepers for the 2026 NBA draft next on Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings.
You are Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings, your daily podcast on the future stars of the NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Tyler Metcalf. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Join me as always, Tyler Rucker. Rucker, scale of 1 to 10. How pumped are you to talk about some sleepers? And for Trae Young to be part of your Washington Wizards.
Honorary Washington Wizards fans. Everybody knows this about me. 10 to both. I'll lie. 9.5 for the Trae Young move, but a 10 for some draft sleepers. Who isn't excited for this, Metcalf? Come on.
Yeah, well, we're not here to talk about Trae Young. There are plenty of other really intelligent, connected, locked on properties that will be doing that. Instead, we're here to talk about someone who personally it's a little more exciting. Deshane Montgomery, and you're probably like, who? Except for the real sickos. We're gonna dive into what we think his NBA role and comps and projection could be, some concerns that we might have with his game. But we got to start out with what we love about Deshane Montgomery and why he is the sleeper of the week this week. So Montgomery is a 6'4", 190-pound junior shooting guard playing at Dayton and having a bonkers year. As a freshman, he was at Mount St. Mary's. Last year, he transferred to Georgia. Really didn't figure it out, kind of struggled to find his footing, transferred to Dayton this year. He started all 16 games, playing just over 31 minutes a game, shooting 52.7% from the floor, 37.5% from three, 82% from the line, 4.2 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 0.6 blocks, 2.8 steals, 14.9 points. What do you love about Deshane Montgomery?
I think at first, if you haven't watched him, you look at the stats and you're like, okay, solid. Looks like potentially a late second round guy. And then when you watch the film, there's a bigger story to tell. And I kind of always like to find these guys that have kind of either transferred up or stayed at college multiple years, and you could see the game improving, obviously, box score wise. But this one's different because, like you mentioned, transfers to Georgia just doesn't work out, which happens more than not with a lot of like the situation in basketball these days in college hoops. And then now at Dayton, you could make an argument Dayton's been one of the more underrated programs in terms of getting guys, ready for the NBA. Deron Holmes, Damani Kamara,
Kobe Brea before he transferred.
Yeah. So it is lengthy history there, recent history. And when you watch Montgomery, it's not just like, oh, he's he's listed 6'4", 190. So you're like, oh, is he a bigger size point guard? And it's like, well, he kind of plays like a combo guard. And then he's got freakish athleticism where it's just out of nowhere. You're like, oh, you can get up even more than I thought. So good bounce. And it is very good bounce, like kind of, fast break. He's throwing down the double pumps, like reverse, where you're like, where did this come from? I think you just see his way to impact the game, Metcalf. And there's a lot of boxes that get checked quickly with his game where I'm like, okay, you've kind of figured out not only how you can be like the scoring guy, but how you can make hustle plays, how you can, thrive in your role.
Also, before people totally lose their minds in the comments, also Obi Toppin.
Obi Toppin, that was a big one. Top 10 guy. Sorry.
So just to kind of further highlight how impressive Montgomery's season has been after kind of not doing anything at Georgia last year. Currently 8.1 BPM, effective field goal rate of 60, true shooting percentage of 63.3. Those are bonkers numbers for a perimeter 6'4" guard. Assist rate 17.1, turnover rate just 15.1, 2.2 block rate, 5.1 steal rate, 62.4% on twos, and then 37.5% on 7.5 attempts from three per 100 possessions. The athleticism, the explosiveness is really sneaky with him because I don't think it's overly sustained, but really quick first step. Like his top line speed, I wouldn't comp him to like some of the fastest players in the country, but that first step on drives, the way that he explodes off the floor on block attempts, on dunk attempts, it's really impactful. And it's a big reason why he's such an impactful and disruptive defender, both on and off ball, because he's constantly jumping passing lanes. He's getting into ball handlers. He's defending with his chest, and then he's meeting them at the apex of their shot without fouling. It's a really unique and interesting blend of where like athleticism meets instincts, and it's producing a heck of a defender.
He gets into high gear fast. And a lot of guys you could see like, hey, they're really fast in the open court where it's like, well, they take a while to get from, first gear to sixth gear. It seems like with him, he can get to fourth gear fast. And then the athleticism, it's sneaky because he has elite athleticism, but it's one of those like understands when to like bring out a little extra. And I know that sounds weird, but all of a sudden you're watching, you're like, okay, I thought this guy was a big time leaper. And then you're like, how did he get that high? So like, this is, I think, something you're looking for. And I don't know if you do this, but like when you're looking for a sleeper, you're like, okay, what's going to get them on the NBA court? Like what's an elite skill that maybe they can bring to the table? And I'm watching, Montgomery, and I'm like, okay, he's got the NBA athleticism.
Mhm.
He's got the short window quickness. Then you just start seeing a couple parts of his game where you're like, hey, that could check a box. Like this is something that could work at the next level. So it's one of these sleepers you keep watching more and more because you're like, I think there's something here. And we always see every draft class, we're talking, in January. I had to double check that it was January right now. We're always talking like, hey, this is, an awesome class. Well, the deadline comes up and we lose a little bit of that depth.
Yeah.
And then guys like this climb up the ranks and, really become an intriguing value at some point in this draft. So, I don't know if you feel the same way. There's just a lot of good stuff with his game.
Yeah, and I always struggle trying to find some of these deep cuts or these sleepers, late bloomers, especially at the mid-major level, because the mid-major draft talent this year is pretty rough, given how many guys are just transferring. There's a lot. There's like this draft class is loaded, but from a mid-major standpoint, it's like, man, there's just you're kind of grasping at straws trying to find something. And when you see a junior get off to a really hot start, you're like, okay, like a 6'4" junior, like cool. Let's keep an eye on it, see how it sustains. And then it's like every single month, it's just more of the same dominance. And a lot of the times it either falls off or it's just an upperclassman beating up on poor competition. But that's never been the case with Montgomery this year. And he's had massive games against Cincinnati, Marquette, BYU, Florida State. Like he's playing, they've played some really good teams, and he's shown up in all of them, especially on defense with his playmaking, but then even on offense, where he's so good at forcing or turning those defensive events into transition buckets and easy looks on the other end. And then even in the half court, the 3-point shot has tailed off a little bit from how insane of a start he got off to, but 37.5% for a guy like him, I'm more than okay with. I think the volume's at a respectable spot. Some of the difficulty on step backs and off screen stuff, I think is fine. And as long as he can kind of maintain this range of volume and efficiency, I think it's going to be enough to be like, yeah, that's passable on the offensive end, especially given how disruptive and impactful and consistent he is on the defensive end.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when I love the mid-major point you're bringing up. I think the biggest thing when you're looking at upperclassmen is you also want to see these guys be realistic of like, hey, okay, there's a reason you're still at college. Like, no offense to these guys, you're still working on your game. You want to see if guys have gotten humbled enough to be like, hey, I'm finding a way to make an impact in multiple ways. Jalen Williams at Santa Clara was a great example of it. Of like, you could see the versatility, and there was games where his teammates had the hot hand. So what was he doing? He was finding a way to feed teammates. Like he was playing within the flow, and there was ways in which he was impacting the game or taking over a game, not just as a scorer, but like either on the defensive end some nights or with his playmaking, rebounding, and I think you've seen that with a lot of other guys. AJ Mitchell at Santa Barbara was like that. And then I think Montgomery, the BYU game, you might look at a box score and be like, well, he had 11, 8, and 4. And if you watch the film, it's like, well, he was fantastic. There's a possession he's coming down in transition and goes, right at AJ DeBansa and throws a shoulder shimmy and goes up for a layup. And you're like, wait, what? Like, I mean, and it's just a guy that looks fearless. Like, okay, I've done this millions of times. So you like to see games like that from someone like, yes, we like to see, he's averaging 20 a game. Like, that would be the dream. But I think you like to see, off nights, he's still making an impact for his team. He's still finding a way to really bring it to the table. So I think that speaks volumes with a guy like Montgomery.
And our pros for him far outweigh the cons, but we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't bring up some concerns or questions, which we'll get to right after this. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to keep track of every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I love how it tracks all my subscriptions and lets me cancel them right in the app with just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. This episode is sponsored by Betterhelp. As we roll into the new year, there's a lot of pressure to chase a new you, but sometimes it isn't about reinventing yourself. It's about feeling a little less weighed down. Therapy can help you understand what's been holding you back by giving you an outside perspective on your emotions, motivations, and relationships. They help match you with a therapist based on your needs and preferences, so you're not doing all that legwork on your own. BetterHelp has served over 5 million people with more than 30,000 therapists, and live sessions average a 4.9 out of 5 rating across more than 1.7 million client reviews. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/NBA. That's betterhelp.com/NBA. So Montgomery isn't a perfect prospect. If he was, we'd be talking about him in the top 5 conversation. So we love his game. We're really excited about him. He's one of the pleasant surprises of this year. But are there any concerns that you have with this game?
I think it's always you spotted this perfectly before, Metcalf, and everybody knows I love not give you compliments. So I think it's always tough with someone like this when you can tell they're beating up some bad teams. But as you've pointed out, he's also been delivering against some tougher competition. So I think the toughest part of watching this is like, okay, well, is this fool's gold? Are we a little bit of a hot streak? Is it a strong start to the year? Or can we get some more consistent play? And when it is with like a mid-major, you're like, okay, we might not get really, really tested until we're getting to like tourney time. So, obviously when you're talking, I'll look up Dayton's schedule, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, there's always one where you're like, okay, well, how legit is it? Is this a 1 year just bounce back? Is this the perfect fit after a bad situation where you're like, maybe it's a little bit of an illusion, but I just, again, go back to Dayton's track record recently, and they know how to get the best out of their players. And when you watch Montgomery on film, it just looks like a guy that was motivated, and you can really see the confidence in his game. So, hit me with it. What about you? What's your biggest concern with him?
It's tough because, especially when you look at the numbers, I'm just going to rattle through some synergy stuff here. And he's in the 82nd percentile at the rim. Overall, he's shooting 52.4% at the rim in the half court. You'd like to see that be a little higher, but for a 6'4" guard, not bad. It's okay. You'd like it to be a little higher. 71st percentile shooting off the catch, 93rd percentile, 87th percentile in transition, 98th percentile as a pick and roll ball handler, as a scorer. Relatively low volume, but he's also just in the 50th percentile spotting up. You'd like to see that be a little higher, a little more consistent there, because when we think about what he'll be in the NBA, he's not going to be dominating pick and roll possessions. He's not going to be initiating the offense. He's not doing that at Dayton. So why is he going to do it in the NBA? Some second side stuff, maybe with the second or third unit here and there, maybe, but most of his time is going to be spent as that spot up shooter, off ball scorer, transition guy. So I'd like to see I wish the spot up shooting was a little more consistent. And another reason he's not going to be one of these guys that can potentially, or at least I don't think he will, that can potentially transition into being, a pseudo point guard. I don't think the handle's all that great. And I think the passing still needs some work.
The handle's the biggest question for me because, you see a lot of on his drives where it's like, it's good. It's good recognition and awareness before he's even putting it on the ground of like, okay, I know I can set this guy up with a little bit of like movement, and he blows by people so quick. Like his first step is fantastic. So sometimes he's like, I don't even have to worry about the handle because guy's already in my rear view mirror. But it's so tough to project these guys. Just like I'd love to be like, this is a no doubt slam dunk sleeper gonna work. But I'm always like, hey, okay, well, with this, you have to land in the perfect spot. Like AJ Mitchell had to land with the perfect system that would build some trust and let him be him. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen for every prospect. Like that's going to the second round, or if Montgomery has a massive climb, amazing. But you got to really get lucky early on to be like, hey, we're going to let you play your style and how you. The spot up was a big thing for me. I'd like that number to be a little bit higher too, because I think that's going to be a role you got to lean on early as like a rookie. You got to get to your spots. If you're in transition, you got to get to the corner and stretch the floor, or space out the floor. So yeah, but then you look at the other numbers, you're like, I feel pretty good about this. So I don't think he'll be the primary guy. I think he could be a really good rotation asset as his game continues to develop. And then, obviously we'll talk about the defense, but like it's kind of the balance of like, well, the pros just seem to really be trending in a good way. So I don't know.
Yeah. And just to circle back to the spot up stuff, because that's, I think, the most applicable to what his role likely will be. And he's only at 35% from three in spot up situations. Not good enough. But like when you look at his shot chart, it's really bizarre. Not in a bad, it's just weird. So like if you're on the baseline looking towards half court, the right corner, he's shooting 42.9%. In the left corner, he's shooting 28.6%.
That's weird.
If you're looking at the right wing, so not above the arc, but out of the corner, you know what I'm talking about. The right wing, he's shooting 30%. In that corner, he was at 42.9. If you look at the left wing, he's shooting 42.1%.
That's really weird, actually.
So it's really bizarre. You'd think those would line up a little more. Volume on all of them isn't massive, but it's still just kind of weird. Doesn't mean anything, probably not. But you'd like to see that. And even if just that left corner jumps up 10%, it's going to totally shift his overall spot up numbers. And he's creating so many opportunities in transition and as a second side creator out of DHOs and stuff. I'm hoping it's just a little bit of small sample size, but we have started to see that outside shot tail off. The current percentage and volume are acceptable. I might get a little concerned if it starts trending lower than it is.
That's the fool's gold test. Is like, okay, you're on a heater, and I think the biggest test too is like, hey, you're cold. How quickly can you get out of it?
Yeah,
and I think that tells a lot too. Is like, are you in a 5 or 6 game slump? Because it's like, well, the teams figure something out, and that's why we go back and watch the film. It's like, okay, you're getting covered a little bit different. Did someone get a good scout on you, and now all of a sudden everybody's doubling that down? Or is it just like, hey, I've had a 2 or 3 game stretch where can't get to fall, and then all of a sudden you bounce back and get on the right path. I think that tells a lot too. But yeah, that the splits on the location are always funny too. When you're like, what in the world? Like, why is this doesn't make sense? And sometimes it makes sense if like one side of the floor.
And those were all attempts, so there were pull-ups included in there.
It's like, hey, it makes sense sometimes if you're righty and it's like, oh, I shoot better going to the right. It's like, okay, I understand that, but when it's just mix and match. You're like, what? Why? That makes no sense. So, but hey, look, if you're gonna be a potential asset at the next level, like the corner spot is a huge deal. It's you got to be able to hit those shots. So I'm with you. Like if he could get one of those percentages up, it's a big knock for him in a positive way.
Do you have any concerns on the defense?
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, it's another thing where you just when you see guys playing lower level competition and it's a different speed.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's playing against a younger brother that's got a Nerf hoop. Like at times, you're just like, oh my gosh, his hands are violent. I think he's going to be, if he's going to stick at the next level, I think it's going to be because of the defense and the hands. You?
Yeah, agreed. I think it's I'm massively nitpicking here, but like there are some times where he gets a little too floaty off
Yes.
ball, and kind of and puts himself in bad position to then close out, where he's like getting these light closeouts where he never really gets close, but he's like throwing his hands up. It's like the ball's halfway to the rim, and like you didn't affect the guy's eye line at all, because you're just kind of floating around a little bit. But his steal numbers are insane. So it's like, okay, well, a couple of those a game you can kind of adjust for, especially since he's turning a lot of those defensive events into offensive opportunities. So it's a nitpick, but it's also something I think is really easy to clean up at the next level.
He's had 2 games this year of north of 6 or more steals.
Yeah.
In both those games he had a block as well. So you know what it is? It also seems like if you're like a defensive minded assistant coach and you watched him, you'd like be running to the GMs, like, please somehow get me this kid. Like, cause it's one of those where I'm watching and I understand what you're saying. Like off ball, he coasts a little bit where I'm like, okay, you get a little too cute maybe sometimes and I'm like, are you confident or are you overly confident on that side? Or is there a little bit of like, you don't know how even much better you could be as a defender, which is a scary thing when you're watching. Like, but I swear, like you do a deep dive on him, and I'm watching some games. And I'm like, gosh, every single possession, this guy's stealing the ball or getting an impact. Like he's just a madman there.
And when you try and envision what he would look like with like a legit rim protector behind him, where he can gamble a little more and chase over and funnel guys into him, it gets even more exciting. Which takes us to, what does his role look like in the NBA, which we'll get to right after this. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend. So before tip off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So we've mentioned it a handful of times. Like, yeah, he's playing mid-major competition. He's played some big time programs, played well in them. But those, once in a blue moon, different than doing it every single night. So are there any comps or archetypes or roles or projections with Montgomery that you find really exciting or interesting?
I just thought of one mid-show. I'm really excited about this. I actually think it's a good one. So here we go. This is going to be a backlash. I give me and Metcalf, for anyone that doesn't know, Metcalf's really good at comps. I'm always like, it's a blue moon before I think of one that I really like. Can I interest you in Gary Payton II?
You son of God! I knew you were going to steal it.
I got one.
It's going to be Gary Payton II with a better jumper was one of mine.
I mean, why couldn't that work? He does remind me. Now Gary is Gary
He's a little springier.
He was skinnier though in college, I think. He was listed around 6'3", 180, 175. That can't be right. But Gary put on some weight at the next level. Like, I think Montgomery could get to like 6'4", 200, 205 pretty good. And he'd be a good, like, rotation weapon to throw out there.
Yeah,
That's a good comp.
Yeah, because you stole it.
I knew you were going to throw it too. When I thought of it, it was like light bulb, but I was like, this is Metcalf. He's going to say it.
I've used that with Seth Trimble so much that I've just implanted it in your brain. So you're like, oh my God, this is a great comp.
But it 100%. I'm not trying to steal it. It's like Metcalf said, oh, Gary Payton the second. But that reminds me a lot of him watching him, because I was trying to tell you,
especially like potential role.
And I brought up AJ Mitchell earlier, and I was like, sort of the style, but I was like, AJ was more shifty and more of like an on-ball offensive multi-level scoring guy. Yeah, and the playmaking way better. But that's when you watch Montgomery, I think the athleticism, he'll make some hustle plays, like, you know, when GP2 was healthy, the mitten, which is still my favorite nickname ever, the mitten. In the glove, the mitten was very impactful when he was healthy for his first time with the Warriors. You watch some playoff series and you're like, gosh, this guy is such a unique asset to have in that rotation. So I think teams are always looking for those like Swiss Army knife guys that you can be like, hey, let's get him out there to just play some great defense.
All right, I got two more for you.
Okay, hit me.
Vince Williams from the Memphis Grizzlies.
That's a good one. That's
and
a good one.
Drew Smith with the Miami Heat.
Those are good ones. It's funny too when we do some comps like this and we're realistic, and then people like,
this is a junior
reminds me of
this is a
Clyde
junior
Drexler.
We're trying to be realistic, because if we come out here and we're hyping this guy up as a potential All-NBA guy, that's disingenuous. That's not fair to him. It's not fair to his fans. It's not fair to the listeners.
But yeah, like at first I was like, okay, this scoring kind of reminds me of Mike Conley. And I was like, I can't throw out Mike Conley for a mid-second round sleeper. I can't do that.
You're just doing the lefty thing there.
Yeah, it's just the lefty thing. So, but it's just trying to get to that point where you're realistic. So like, I like those are good shouts by you.
But like, those are guys who had really impressive analytics. They were upperclassmen at mid-major schools, really impressive numbers in those years, and were value finds in the second round who have stuck around, carved out a role, and are making a nice little career. So is Deshane Montgomery going to be an all-star? Probably not. Most guys aren't. That's a really high threshold to hit, but that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of really exciting and impactful and important career outcomes for him to have. And that's kind of the type of guy that I envision he could be in the NBA, coming off the bench, playing really high-level defense, impacting the offense in low-maintenance ways, making the right decision, and just playing winning basketball.
Gosh dang it. Who's the guy on the T-Wolves that I love? Why am I drawing a blank? That friend of the program.
Jalen Clark.
Like, think of the past. Now, Jalen Clark had a very different path, obviously, to where he's gotten now. Like, he had some injuries, but he was a unbelievable college defender, which the offensive game was still a big question mark. Now, like, I think Jalen's spent some time to get to his point, but my bigger picture here is like, hey, maybe Montgomery is a second round guy that's like on a two-way that they're like, hey, we really like, if you will buy into being a defensive weapon and just be obsessed with being a defensive weapon, absolutely, like, we would have a spot for you. So maybe it's some time in the G League. Maybe they just bring him along slowly, and that second offseason is like, oh my gosh, like, you've got a nice weapon there. Like, look, guys like Patrick Beverly back in the day, you can find a way to stick around a long time in the NBA if you can play elite defense. Now, if you also can be a hustle guy and a guy that's got great athleticism, and you can do a little bit of, role playing on the offensive side of the ball, I think absolutely teams will take a chance. So there's just too many boxes, Metcalf, that check, you check when you're watching his film. He might not be like a guy where like, hey, he's a lottery pick, but I think we say it all the time, there's value in every single draft.
Yeah. And Montgomery could easily prove that. I'm going to be fascinated to see what his decision looks like when we get towards the deadline. If he keeps this up all year, if we see some freshmen pull out, won't be shocking if he stays in. But Deshane Montgomery, Dayton Flyers basketball, they play a fun brand. Highly recommend checking them out if you haven't. But we're going to leave it there. Until next time, he is Tyler Rucker. You can follow him at Tyler_Rucker. I'm Tyler Metcalf. You can follow me at TMetcalf11. We got some really fun episodes coming up next week. Make sure to check them out. Spoiler, some big board stuff. But thank you for listening to Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings and making us your first listen.